Okay, so we have ended the poll now, and I will launch the results. We have most people from Europe. Okay, we have most people from Europe. Some people from Asia, from America and Africa. Unfortunately, no one from Australia, but that might change in the course of the event, hopefully, but probably the timing is also not so great. Yes, now I would like to introduce, I would like to introduce Janice, and I'm very curious to learn more about the Green Jobs Project. And, oh, Marion, your question, yeah, I was referring to where you were born, but yeah, I think we offered several answers, but anyways, maybe we will do the same poll at the end of the event to make sure that everyone is actually giving the right answer. Okay, Janice, it's your turn. Looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks very much for the introduction and warm welcome to everyone. Nice to have you here. My name is Janice Burns. I'm working at the International Union of Forest Research Organizations, and I'm really excited to introduce you to our project. Probably many of you have been introduced over the last 4 years, but it's an exciting time actually to summarize what we've accomplished and look at the way ahead. So I would like to start by introducing the project partners. Of course, the European Forest Institute is our host institution in Bonn and supports research and policy interfacing in Europe. We also have the International Union of Forestry Students Association, IFSA, and they're quite appropriately right in the middle of my slide and right at the heart of this project and a lot of our forest education activities over the last years, as well as EUFRO, which is connecting forest scientists in 650 member organizations. So many of those are universities as well. And the project has been generously supported by the German Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture. So we really appreciate all of the contributions from these partners, but especially from all of you who are online today and who have participated in our many activities over the years, and your organizations as well for making this possible. I'd like to point out the project website. It's linked below, and someone will drop that in the chat for you. So that's where you can find a lot of the information that we'll share today, and also further and final project documents that are coming out in the next weeks. So I don't need to tell you probably that the world has been changing and quickly over the last years. When I started university, nobody had even a flip phone. And now you can't open your car door without having one, it seems. So we have been undergoing incredible changes in technological advancement, in digitalization, urbanization, major shifts of rural communities to city centers, also population growth, not equally distributed across continents and countries, and a general shift in the way that we work. And this project, although started in 2018, we were already looking at completely different and digital ways of working. We've meanwhile gone through a lot with the pandemic and the changes that are coming with that now and in future years. And I'm sure that things will continue to evolve. So the big question that we wanted to look into was whether or not forestry students are prepared through their university level education to meet these different challenges and opportunities and the emerging expectations that societies have, also with a shift back to an emphasis on renewable resources and the demand that that would put on the forest sector and forest products, and also just the general day-to-day means of working, particularly looking more at a landscape level approach, integrating and cross-sectoral collaboration, and all of those aspects. And what we knew from some previous research was that there was very little research on forest education available, and even less on forest-related employment. Therefore, we launched this project with the goal to enhance global student networking, capacity building, and research on employment in the forest sector, including green jobs. And the more specific objectives also derived from some earlier work by the joint UFRO-IFSA Task Force on Forest Education and a lot of IFSA students who had contributed to finding out that there were some gaps in the knowledge that we had available, as well as the skills that students were equipped with after their studies. So we decided to look very specifically into the forest sector labor market and in analyzing the global trends in employment and competence needs, but also to facilitate networking among students and forest leaders and decision makers. This project had quite an emphasis on the forest and science policy interfacing. So a lot of social and communication and leadership skills related to that were incorporated into this very comprehensive capacity building program that we offered also for students and young scientists. And now, I put a lot on this slide, but since we're at the end of 4 years, I did that because I wanted to sort of give an overview of all the different things we were doing at once, but not to worry. The presentations following mine, they will give examples and go into more detail of how we actually did this and what was meant by that. So structurally, the project had 3 working packages, and one of them was to establish the IFSA liaison office in Bonn. And there we had a very communication and project management focused activity line. So we worked closely with IFSA on their communication strategy, the IFSA strategy. I'm curious how many people here now know the vision of IFSA. And if they do know it, maybe type it in the chat. I would be excited to see. Also, there was support in the first 2 years for the joint UFRO-IFSA Task Force on Forest Education. A lot of the ideas for the project came from there, and then that fostered a further collaboration. And then the team worked tirelessly on all activities to help share and disseminate the outputs that we had from our activities, to promote participation in, for instance, the global survey, as well as sharing really concrete opportunities for green jobs, PhDs, trainings, workshops, events, and those things through our channels. In the future of, thank you, people know IFSA's vision. In 2018, actually, A World That Appreciates Forests was written down for the first time, I think in Rovaniemi, Finland. And it's been spreading with this very tactical communications approach. So I'm glad to see. But the research component really focused on the future of employment in the forest sector. So we wanted to analyze the changes over time, looking at that globally, also identifying the global and the local drivers for change in the different regions, and to highlight what those were, and explore promising future scenarios. What could future jobs look like? What might you be thinking about when you start your studies or when you end your studies and you're searching for a career? And also to identify the skills and competences needed for those, as well as the capacity building segment, which I will talk about later in detail, to have the skills needed to take on those new jobs. So just to summarize that, our approach was to carry out student-based empirical research, to bridge this gap between education and employment, to create opportunities for young professionals, and to foster collaborations among everybody who was interested in these topics and provide career relevant information. And that took place from 2018, where we started. There were really some milestones throughout the years, including expert workshops, the Global Student Survey, employer interviews, and tree learning. And today we're at the final event. But over the years, we really had a systematic and cyclic dissemination of information and an engagement of youth in all of the activities and partners events, our own events and traineeships and so on. So I'm very pleased to pass the floor on, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Janice, for the introduction to the project, and also for reminding us of the objective, which I think is still very valid, probably even more than 3 years ago. I will briefly look into the chat, but I don't recall very important questions at the moment. It was more like a welcome from everyone. So then I would like to invite Simone to introduce us to the global survey and to the tree learning. Looking forward to your presentation, Simone.
Yes. Hi everyone. I'm Simone Massaro. I'm currently the secretary of IFSA, the International Forestry Student Association. And as Janice was saying, we are one of the project partner in this project. And so I'm going to talk a bit more on the student part of the project, I would say, and what IFSA have been directly doing here. So I will start with the global survey, which is, wait, I will start with the global survey while we figure out the technological problems. So yes, this was like this was a survey done between students and recent graduates in forestry and forest-related courses, with a goal to understand the motivation to study forestry, what's their career ambition, what they want to do after studying forestry, which are the skills they are learning and they think they are useful. And yeah, and also a bit like all the process of the learning experience, how they learn their skills. The survey was for students, for recent graduates to find us less than 1 year. And the important part here that it was at a global scale. We had like at the end 80 different countries. The language was translated in 5 different languages. And yeah, we had like, so a very diverse participation. The survey was open for 6 months in 2020. So also there quite some time to fill the answers. And at the end, we had like this almost 1,000 complete answers. Actually, we got more than 1,000 answers, but not all the answers were complete because it took like, it was not that short the survey as you can see, because we had at the end 144 different questions. So quite some information collected. And yeah, again, it was really nice to see this global aspect of the survey. The results of the survey are going to be like part of like one of the activities of the project. So they are then in the fact sheet, there is going to be the outcome. But I just want to go quickly through some figures of some results of the question of the survey, because I think there is some interesting insights, just an idea of which information we need to collect with the survey. The first question is like the reason to study forest-related program. So the participants had to rank to give a vote from 0 to 5 to each of those criteria. And we can see like how job satisfaction and beneficial work was defined as having a positive impact in the society is really like ranked high, while earning potential employment opportunities, I feel maybe expect, but they are really like, they were not a priority. But I think it's an interesting insight that like people go to study forestry because they want to, for job satisfaction and to have a positive impact. Next slide is career ambitions. So this was divided between master's, bachelor's, and PhD students. And the question was like, what are you going to do after your graduation? And I think it's very interesting to see here, like how across the 3 different groups, the amount of people looking forward finding some employment is pretty much constant. So also a lot of bachelor students or master students are likely looking at employment opportunities. But also quite some people are interested in continuing education. And then, yeah, there is this other part that with like for PhD students kind of getting big. This is a bit like what forestry students worldwide want to do after they finish their course. We have skill and competencies. So this question was under which are the skills that you think are going to be like the general skills that you think are going to be relevant for your employment for the future. And first of all, we see that a lot of skills are really important. So like we like putting the focus that like we need a lot of different skills and not just like a few skills. And with the top one being the ability to communicate and problem solving skills. And the last figure I want to share is the work experience, which of this kind of work experience have been the most valuable to students, and how far is the internship is the most valuable. I guess it's also very common, but like really one of the outcome of the survey that internships are very key part for student education. And the second biggest one is volunteering in forestry related stuff, which is also like, it's nice to see at IFSA that volunteering is helping a lot for students. With this, I wrap up the survey results and then move to the next aspect I'm going to present, which is IFSA Tree Learning. So what is IFSA Tree Learning? It's this e-learning platform from IFSA. And why we're doing this. So we want to kind of like fill a bit the gaps in the formal education, especially on soft skills, because like the thing to realize with the project in general, like often some important knowledge or educational aspect is like missing in the curriculum. So we want to give for students a way to focus on this aspect, but also the core part here that we are not a university, we are not, our job is not to really create content, but what meaning we're doing is to make some collections, some curated collection of contents. So you can, for example, you want to learn how to write your CV and you can get a pretty nice crash course that lasting, I don't know, a couple of hours, but still divided in subtopics that so is easily navigable and you can understand how the few basic things of how to write a CV. Or we have a course on indigenous communities, which is now going to give you an idea of completely of indigenous communities, but it's a very good way of starting in this topic, because like often like there's an aspect missing in the education, and so we see tree learning as this starting point for students to widen their horizons. And yes, we're saying we have like short videos because it's the format we found the best for students. And then we also have possibility to have quiz and certificates for students to participate in. And some more info about the platform. We have two core areas. One is soft skills and the other is forestry topics. At the moment, we have 4 courses for a total of 24 lectures on the platform. Plus, there is some additional material, like we have a book collection and the job talks, which was part of this project, but also then part of the IFSA Tree Learning. And to give you a quick idea, we launched the platform in September 2021, and we got like more than 1,000 euros so far, or registered users that joined the platforms and took part in our courses. So see, it's working. And what I would just really invite you is to just try the platform. You see the link there. There is the web page explaining you everything, how it's working, how to participate. So yes, and that would be it with my part.
Thank you very much, Simona, for this presentation. And I think it's quite impressive what IFSA is doing with regards to engaging with students, engaging with their peers and training them. I studied political science at the university, and there was nothing like that offered to us. And I was very impressed from the beginning when I started working with EFI, what IFSA is actually doing and how the networking works and how you support each other. So yeah, really, I'm again very impressed. So thank you very much. And also how you're responding to the needs of the job market actually, and how you comprehend what university is offering, which is obviously limited and hopefully will change. This is one important aspect of the Green Jobs project, actually, to also give some feedback to universities. But now we will talk about feedback from employers. And we will have the presentation of our next speaker, which is Juliet. And I'm really curious to find out what employers are expecting from students. So looking forward to your presentation, Juliet.
Thank you so much, Keisha. So my presentation will be very short, but another academic paper will follow, so you will read and find more results there. But before I start with my presentation, I would like to thank everyone for creating time to join today's event. We really appreciate, and we also appreciate the support that you've provided to this project since we started. So thank you so much. I'm Juliet Achieng. I work in Bonn. So I started working in this project when it was launched in December 2018, up to now that we are coming to an end. So we've done a lot, and that's what we're trying to showcase in today's event. I hope you're learning already. So I will start sharing my screen now so that we can see what employers expect from students, because this is really important. I'm still sharing my screen. Okay, I hope you do see it in presentation mode. Okay, excellent. So the employers' interviews, we conducted them last year from October to December, and the objectives were actually to find out how the employment for forest-related graduates is changing for the last 10 years and how it will change up to 2030. And then we also wanted to find out from the employers how the fields of specialization that they're hiring graduates from has changed over the last years and how it's going to change up to the future, and which skills they consider important when they're hiring graduates, as well as find out from them if they engage with higher education institutions to provide feedback on skills needs. We identified the employers through the global survey that Simona has shared with us. So we asked the students to name some of the employers from their countries. And we also carried out a study with experts from 5 countries, Brazil, China, Finland, Germany, and the US. And we also asked the experts to name some of the biggest employers in their countries that we could interview for this, that we could actually sample for this interview that we were planning. And all this information was supplemented by an internet search. So additional information was obtained from the internet. The interviews were conducted by 12 student assistants from 7 countries, and some of these student assistants were IFSA members. So we gave an opportunity to these young students to polish their skills. So we've been talking a lot about generic skills, how they can build, how they can enhance their skills. So this is one of the ways, by giving them an opportunity to do such tasks. And we did the interviews last year, like I've said, and the language of the interviews was English. But in cases where the employers could not respond to the interviews in English, the questions were translated into the official language by the student assistants. And then after they received the responses, they translated them to English. In total, we had 31 forest-related employers participating in the interviews, and the employers were from 5 countries, but we also sampled some international forest-related employers. So this graph provides information of how the employers were distributed. You see, most of them came from Brazil, and this was followed by international forest-related employers, and South Africa was the third. The US and Germany had the least numbers of employers responding to the interviews. Then for the background information part 2, so this is about the thematic areas the employers were involved in. Most of them were involved in forest management, as well as also forest industries. So they were also from forest industries. The least thematic area was forest-based recreation, ecotourism, and health, and then followed by social and urban forestry. And now on to the results. So the first part of the interview was about employment of graduates with forest-related degrees. So almost half of the employers said that there's an increase in the percentage of graduates with forest-related degrees that they employ in their companies or organizations. So this means bachelor's to PhD degrees. And as you can see from figure 1, most of the employers were employing master's and PhD graduates, and this was followed by bachelor's graduates. So none of the employers was employing only bachelor's and PhD graduates. And majority of the employers also reported that they expect the skills that they'll be requiring from the graduates in the future to go higher. So they will need graduates with advanced degrees. And some of them even reported that they would be looking for graduates with international experience, as well as graduates with non-forest related degrees, because they really want this individual who's well-versed in so many things, not only subject-specific competencies, but also generic competencies and so much more. So we also asked them about subject-specific skills that they consider as important when they are hiring graduates. And they reported that forest management and planning, as well as forest economics and climate change, to be very important for them. And these skills will continue to be important up to 2030, as well as forest governance and policy, as well as land restoration and climate change. So these are going to continue, as well as environmental awareness. For generic skills that they consider important, they reported that communication was very important, as well as problem solving and creativity. And these skills will also continue to be important up to 2030. And in addition to that, public speaking and presentation skills will also be important, as well as stakeholder relations and open-mindedness and innovation. So as a graduate, I hope you are taking note of what is expected of you in the coming days and years. Then we also asked the employers about the importance of a short-term work experience. So most of the employers said that the experience is very important to them. And when they are hiring graduates for the first time, so the first hires, they usually look at these experiences from the graduates. So does a graduate have any work experience? Did the graduate participate in any traineeship, in any internship opportunity? Did the graduate volunteer in anything? And to them, this is important for so many reasons. So it's about the graduate. So it shows that the graduate is able to fit in the organization. It's a proof that the graduates are proactive. It's a proof that the graduate has already experience about work environment and is also able to apply what they've learned in school in the real work situation. We also wanted to find out from the employers if they do indeed engage with higher education institutions to provide feedback on skills needs. And 50% of the employers said that they do that. And the most common form of engagement was actually by being part of the advisory boards, where they contribute to curriculum reviews. So 30% do this. But of course, other forms of engagement do exist. For example, providing funding for research projects or carrying out joint research projects. Some employers also coordinate some degree programs, and they also offer opportunities to master's and PhD students for their thesis, so that they can learn from the organizations, like what they are doing. And on the effectiveness of this engagement, so most of the employers said that they would consider it effective. So 86.67% of them reported that it's actually effective and it's been benefiting both stakeholders. And this is reflected through curriculum revisions. So these curriculum revisions have really helped in improving the quality of the graduates that are being produced by the university. So when these graduates go to the workplace, they're really able to do so much. So it's a benefit it's a win-win actually for all the stakeholders. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Juliet, for this inspiring presentation. I found it especially impressive also when listening to Simone's presentation, how much response you actually got from students, from employers, because I know it is a big effort. It takes a lot to actually receive the feedback, because not everyone is kind of providing it right away. So you have to follow up. And this is also like, yeah, I think something that you can be very proud of, that you received such a broad feedback, and not just from specific areas of the world, but from all over the world, which gives you like a real overview of this field. So that's very impressive. And I also found it interesting when it comes to the traineeships, that the students' preferences and the employers' expectations are actually matching. So the students really enjoy traineeships, and also the employers consider that very important. So this can only be an encouragement to do traineeships, but also for employers to pay them properly so that students can actually afford it. But this is just a side note. So thank you very much. We will also learn a little bit more about what you're recommending to students, to employers, to universities, and to policymakers later in the Outlook. But now we'll hand over again to Janice, who will tell us a little bit more about the capacity building activities and the networking, which is, yeah, very important, as we also learned in the past 30 minutes. And then we will see the very nice video prepared just for the event.
Thank you, Geisha, and thanks, Simona and Juliet. It was so nice to hear these outcomes from the project, and I'm really glad to be able to make the link also about what this project really contributed in terms of a massive investment in human capital for the future. Not just that what came from the donors, but the incredible amount of leveraging that provided to bring all of the students together, to put in their time, to put in their ideas, and all of the other organizations on board as well. I'm really, I always, in this international sphere, we have a lot of high-level commitments and ideas, and I always come back to ask, and what about the forests? What difference does it make? And this project will make a big, big difference. So I'm very pleased to share a few specific examples of the capacity building that went on during this project. And also there's so many more that just sort of were spin-offs and took up with the enthusiasm generated by this project that I can't even report on all of them today. But I would go through the liaison office, the science policy traineeship program, the Young Scientists Initiative, the Job Talks video series, which is showcasing forestry careers, joint research, training, and events, as well as resources that were produced during the project. And finally, a few ideas now that our project is coming to an end, what could be done next as well. So first thing, when we talk about capacity development, I think we have to really take into account the two incredible junior researchers that we had for the entire duration of the project. These were two full-time positions funded by the project and who really were at the core of offering the liaison, the communication, coordination, organization, dissemination activities that kept this thing running over the years. But not to be overseen, what an important opportunity and career step that would be for Juliet Etching and Lisa Prior. I think Juliet's on the way to a PhD now, and Lisa is even in another very special place. So many, many thanks for taking up these roles and these tasks, and also to our colleagues at EFI for the many different supervisors and contributors who supported with their guidance. And also from the IFSA side, we had in different years different contributors and guiding the project direction and working closely with these collaborators. So we are very happy to have that as a concrete outcome of this project, as well as a number of opportunities that were created through the liaison office in terms of not only the events that we organized, which were many, including trainings for students to develop their research skills, workshops, leadership opportunities, and so on, but also sharing and multiplying those opportunities which were posted in terms of jobs or workshops and events by many of you in this room who also maybe took in some of the trainees as well. So the Dare to Explore traineeship program was a real highlight and showcased also this effort to bridge the gap between employment and forest education. We were very happy to host 12 trainees during the period of the project. They came from 11 countries on 3 different continents, 5 female and 7 male. Keep in mind, we had also the 2 female in the liaison office. And this program offered a good compensation also for the work of these trainees. And in case of the COVID pandemic, we did postpone for a while, but in order not to leave really a gap when everyone was home in their apartments alone, we decided to take up an online modality, and that was also really interesting. And there's blog reports and so on with some ideas about how it is to work remotely. You can see the top left are trainees at UFRO during that time, and also bottom left, a list of the countries and continents who were participating in the program. We're also very proud that one of our trainees, maybe the only one that wasn't really focused to the science policy, but indirectly was focused on developing IFSA's tree learning platform, which will have an incredible impact in taking those outcomes from the research that we did in the other chapters and putting that into a publicly available, accessible online resource with a massive global impact. And just a couple more examples. There's about 15 blog articles online for any students who are interested or considering doing a traineeship, the different institution or what kind of skills they might develop. These are really nicely explained by the trainees themselves. Also, the trainees have made great progress in their careers. For example, in the top left, this gentleman was with us at UFRO in the first year, and he now has a full-time position in science communication at the Global Landscapes Forum. So this was a great step in his career. And I think I'll come back to you after a short video where the trainees tell you a little bit more from their perspective about the Dare to Explore traineeships.
Explore initiative showed me that there's so many different opportunities when it comes to working in the green sector.
For me, the most important thing in shaping my career path in forest-related sectors is to contribute to developing meaningful connections.
My favorite experience is working with top forest scientists in the organization.
Made me realize that in the future I would really like to work in research.
My favorite memory of the traineeship was the meetings with colleagues because each member's strength makes the team successful.
My colleagues at EFI in Bonn were more than creative, and there was a lot of fun team activities that I really enjoyed.
My message to future potential colleagues would be, you can do it. I also had doubts if I could pull it off, working and studying at the same time. In the end, everything worked out fine.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, reach out to other peers and be courageous.
I should keep my eyes open to possible opportunities or even create that opportunity to do this.
When I'm drafting my future forestry research proposal, they should be as ambitious as well as realistic.
If we want to think about a future that we really want to live in, it requires not only a lot of time, but also commitment.
In the traineeship, I was able to work with great professionals in EFI-IFSA, and I'll be continuously appreciating and cherishing the network with them. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the production of this incredible video, and to all of the trainees also who shared their experiences with us to make that possible. And to all of our other trainees, I'm not sure who's online, but thank you for your contributions. I think it was also for all of the employers and the hosts, an interesting cultural exchange, an opportunity to learn and develop new skills from our side as well. So we were really grateful to have the Dare to Explore program. We also were very happy to host the Young Scientist Initiative. This was a mobility program for early career researchers to visit another research institution, either in Europe, Africa, Asia, or Latin America. And during the years 2018 and 2019, we hosted 15 early career researchers through this mobility grant program. And there's a really nice report about it. I've just got one example page in the top right, and I think that link will be dropped in the chat. And you can see some of the stories from the different participants, showing here down on the bottom left. And they explain about the different kinds of skills that they developed. And they all, both the participants and the institutions, had really positive outcomes. They reported improved scientific and cultural knowledge, strengthened research methodology and using new tools and techniques, improved communication and language skills, new perspectives and ideas, familiarity with different forests and collections, statistical knowledge and debate skills, increased motivation to teamwork and collaboration. And a very important thing from this project is connecting the local and the global issues, especially this science policy interfacing, realizing what are the implications for implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, for example, or global forest goals, and how to translate that to their very particular local context in their community, in the areas where they're working, and also balancing the environmental and societal needs, meanwhile developing those sort of facilitation, negotiation, and other skills to make it possible to really sustainably manage forests and benefit from their resources. So we also showcased careers, as I mentioned, on the one hand, by sharing everything about possible jobs, by being present at different events, by inviting speakers from all kinds of forestry backgrounds. But one important achievement together with IFSA was to come up with a template for showcasing career opportunities online. And so this would be the Ifsa Job Talks. So the first episode was produced with a former IFSA president, Cecil Kanijnen-Dijk, also a UFRO office holder and very well connected to urban forests in Europe and everywhere else. And so in this first series, they go through the questions asking, can you tell us about your current job? How did you get into the field? What are your major career milestones? What sort of obstacles did you face on the way and how did you overcome them? Even, I think, what role did your IFSA experience play in getting to where you are today? And what advice would you have for aspiring young foresters? So this is a really nice opportunity to get familiar with a different kind of forestry career. I mentioned, for instance, that Cecil, it was focused on urban forestry and to see the broad opportunities that are available. And so we hope that this series will continue also with further episodes showcasing the diverse types of employment options. And additionally, there were so many events I mentioned that the liaison office participated in, that the early researchers participated in, that different students or partners went to. But this project really organized several events and engagement opportunities and participated in meetings such as the expert meetings on green jobs, hosting a session at the UFRO World Day last year about bridging employment and education, participating in almost every IFSA event, showcasing the results of the projects, advertising the internships. Also, the International Conference on Forest Education last year was a great opportunity to collaborate with other networks and projects, and even resulted in a call to action on forest education and sparked the launch of a CPF global or a CPF joint initiative on forest education. We had technical lectures, Lisa Preer gave at the TU Dresden, and also just this ongoing trainings and workshops to be able to participate in the research that we were conducting, engaging IFSA students from different countries, engaging employers from different countries. And one last one, I mentioned before that we had a support to the joint UFRO-IFSA task force on forest education, which led a fantastic initiative, a young African forestry professionals publication. And we had at that time, one of our junior researchers, Juliet Aching, was also deputy coordinator of that project, which features a variety of forestry careers, particularly in Africa, and examples of role models in the forestry sector. So there were just many, many things ongoing. And the important thing is that you can find them online. The outcomes of the workshop that we had, the Global Experts Workshop, and further research about employment and education is available in the Trends in Forest-Related Employment and Tertiary Education publication that you see on the screen. That's available freely for download from the EFI website. But also in relation to all those overwhelming number of events I mentioned, we always try to synthesize our experiences and what we learned and to make them available publicly and for the IFSA network. So for instance, by contributing to a capacity building workshop, how to create an effective curriculum vitae and motivation letter, supporting students really to be successful in finding and being granted this kind of internship or traineeship opportunities, also encouraging employers to provide those opportunities. And for instance, participating recently in the IFSA Job Fair, which is trying to make more opportunities like this accessible to the network. So thank you very much. That was a summary of our activities, and I just want to shortly touch on what would be the next thing for you to do. I know that there's a lot of students online, so if you're already a member of IFSA, that's great. If you're graduating and you think about being a researcher, you can join UFRO or EFI, but be a part of a network. And that's already a big benefit. But if you really want to develop your soft skills, maybe consider taking on a leadership role. There's a lot of events being organized, for instance. That's a great chance to develop your project management skills. The whole industry shifts to a lot more project-oriented way of working. So that could be a really valuable thing to have under your belt. Participate in the upcoming IFSS 50th edition in Chile. Get to see other places and other ways of doing. Maybe you even want to organize a mentorship program or a sub-plenary at the UFRO 2024 Congress, or participate in any upcoming webinar or event that EFI is hosting or other activities. So just take this step. Don't just wait for the change, but be a part of it. And that will really help you to build your own capacities, to build your connections and your networks. Also, the data from our project will be published on the project website. So in case you're considering doing a follow-up study or maybe in-depth investigation into some of the more regional results, be welcome to get in touch with us. Still, all our contact information is on the website. And then most importantly, share with your networks, with your friends, show what you're doing to help raise the visibility of being a forester, and make the attractiveness of employment in the forest sector really well known. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Janice, for this super engaging speech. I'm sure it's impossible to remind everything that you said, but we will also have a blog post prepared by Alex, who is kindly sharing all the important links in the chat, and in that blog post you will have access to all the links again, and you will also be reminded of what you can do, what you can join, where you can engage, etc. So so there will be follow-up also on the presentations today. I would like to invite Juliet again now, because she prepared these amazing fact sheets for students, universities, and policymakers with some crucial recommendations. And we will learn more about what needs to be changed now. Thanks, Juliet.
Thank you, Keisha. Yes, you will learn now, but not from me. So we will share the link to the fact sheets. So Alex, please feel free to drop the link to the fact sheets. But I will share just a short presentation about what these fact sheets are.
Yeah.
The wrong screen, Juliet.
Really, I cannot move to the next one. I don't know why.
But we see the notes on, like, the presentation notes.
Oh, really? I don't know what is happening. Okay, let me try again. So, one more time. I hope it works. So.
Perfect.
But I can't move to the next slide. Okay. Anyway, I will stop sharing and just read my screen, my presentation from over here. I actually didn't have much to say. I just wanted to let you know that I think now I got it. Okay, I'll try one last time. So please let me know if it works. So can you see it now?
Working.
Aha, okay, good. Now we got it. Okay, so this is actually shorter. So I just wanted to let you know that the fact sheets are actually targeted at students and universities and policymakers, just like Keisha has said. And it summarizes the results from all the research that we've been carrying out. So we felt like it's important to just summarize the key messages and make it easier for this target audience to actually digest the findings of all this work that we've been doing for the last 3 years. So the results summarized in the fact sheets are from the workshop that we had in 2019 on forest sector employment, green jobs, and forest education. We had over 25 experts participating in the workshop, both students and senior experts. We also are summarizing results from the global survey that Simona was talking about, where we received close to 1,000 responses. So we have summarized results on different topics. And we've also summarized results from the interviews that we conducted with forest-related employers last year. So the presentation that I did a few minutes ago, some of the interesting findings are summarized in these fact sheets. So I would like to really encourage you to open the link to the fact sheets that's been shared with Alex and learn more about the recommendations that we are giving to each of the stakeholders. And our recommendations are based on what each group was providing. So the results that we obtained from each of the groups, not what we think, not what we feel like, but it's based on what each group said. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliet. Since there are no questions in the chat, but a lot of very positive feedback from the peers in the Zoom, I would have a question to first of all to Juliet, but maybe also to Lisa, who is as well in the Zoom, or to Janice. What was the most surprising result of your work in the past 3 years? Is there something that you found like most surprising, or that you didn't expect at all? Okay. Juliet wants to start. Yes.
Janice seems ready. I actually wanted to give her the floor.
Okay.
I wondered if you'd say the same thing as me, Juliet. So just go ahead.
Actually, okay, for me, it would be a lot of the results that we found out were very interesting. So from the survey, from the employers' interviews as well. But what actually stood out, and we are yet to actually analyze lots of these results. So maybe there are even more interesting findings that we'll find. But one interesting result was that forestry students are actually not driven by factors like money or career prospects when they're making a decision to pursue forestry. That was interesting for me. And because most of the time we've been complaining that the sector pays very little money to foresters, so maybe that's why many people don't want to pursue forestry, but the ones we asked said that this is different. So that was interesting. And the other thing that was also an interesting finding, still from the survey, was that actually the number of female students in forestry programs is going up. So this was impressive. From the respondents of our survey, we had more than 55% of them being females, and 45% were males. So this was also interesting for us. And there are many other interesting findings. Yeah, you will read from the fact sheets, you will read from the reports that we published, and you will read from the papers that will come out of this work.
Thank you, Juliet. Janice, would you like to complement?
Yeah, I think it fits well onto the end of Juliet's findings, because she's absolutely right that there's so many interesting things and many more to come. But one that really struck me was that actually there was no significant difference in female or male interest to pursue studies in forestry or careers in forestry. Because, you know, sometimes people are making the suggestion that women are interested in nature conservation and in communication and all of these things. There could be further research on this. I don't know if it's absolutely conclusive result, but our research showed that actually there wasn't a difference in the motivation for pursuing a forest-related career.
Yeah, that's also very interesting, because it kind of responds to the gender bias that people tend to have, that females are more interested in one sector and male in the other. And considering the big amount of female students, this means that in 20 years from now, or maybe even in 10 years from now, we won't have any all-male panels in forest-related topics anymore. So that's something to look forward to. Also very surprisingly, the intrinsic motivation of the students. I love that about the fact sheets as well, because this also then leads to, I think, very engaged employees and to people who really love the job. But it's also important for employers to attract those people with the right offers, which of course also includes money, but not entirely. More like responding to the other expectations. There's actually now quite some activity in the chat. So before we start the informal networking, I would like to ask a question from the chat, which is coming from Sandra Rodriguez, and she's asking Juliet, what based on your experience, what forest education programs need to be able to contribute to green jobs or to further develop the sector?
Okay, Gisha, to save you guys on time, I will respond to Sandra in chat. So please feel free to continue with the program.
Okay, wonderful. Maybe you can also chat bilaterally later on once you're in the informal networking session. Then I would like to wrap up the official part of the event by thanking you all, everyone who presented, and of course also everyone who contributed to the different surveys, interviews, videos. It's very impressive what you did in 3 years with so little people. So quite amazing. I'm supposed to invite you to join the World Forestry Congress side event that is planned. But I would like to invite either Juliet or Janice to specify a little bit, because I think there is online participation possible now, but I would need you to clarify. Is there a link already where people can register that we could share? Janice, please.
I was waiting for Juliet. Yeah, there's been a decision taken that we would have a hybrid event. It's not 100% clear yet about the access. I think still you would need to register for the World Forest Congress to participate in any of the sessions there. But certainly we'll provide updates on the EFI-IFSA-IUFRO project webpage, and also on the different calendars and through social media. So I can say the event is on May 6th in the late evening Korean time. So Europeans probably very
4 a.m.
Oh no, in the morning. In the morning,
yes.
4 a.m. So very early in the morning in Europe, which is good for a change. Maybe our colleagues from the Americas and from Oceania are having it at a normal time of day.
Yeah. So that's already nice that you shared this information. And please make sure to visit the website to get further information. Now I would like to invite all the participants of this Zoom of this event to join the informal networking part of this event, where we're going to discuss future activities and also potential collaborations. I can see that, and that's also based on the feedback of the first poll, that we have very diverse participants. So I think that's something that will make it very exciting. I will excuse myself now because I need to put a quiche in the oven to have something to eat tonight. But I will still continue to listen to your discussions, and I want to thank you very much for this inspiring event. And I hand over to Juliet, Simone, and Janice now.
Thank you so much, Kisha. It was nice having you as our moderator. We enjoyed. You did a great job. Thank you to the participants for your patience, for your interesting comments. We appreciate that so much. So I will hand over to Janice so that she can take us through the informal networking session, the program, and do's and don'ts.
Well, this is now we're really on the informal schedule. So thankfully you'll hear a lot less from me and we'll hear a lot more from you. But the one thing I will do is to shortly share the questions. Actually, we just had 2 guiding questions to kick off the discussions. And I might also ask Jose to help us. We would make a couple of breakout rooms, maybe 3 breakout rooms. We stay all of us in the plenary for now, but if a topic comes up and you're really excited about it and you want to go and discuss it bilaterally, then you can just, of course, choose to join one of those breakout rooms and discuss it further. So maybe some more collaboration comes from this. So I have got very easy, I think, question for you. And that is, what are you or your organization planning in the next year or 5 years in terms of forest education or forest-related employment or green jobs? So this is just sort of a question. We'd like to hear what you're up to. We've got a lot of people interested in the topic here. So I'll stop the screen share so that we can see each other. And maybe I post it in the chat just as well. But then we give the floor to anyone who'd like to share their activities.